Good morning, everyone. It's May 13th, 2019, America. So, throughout my time doing videos, I've maintained that law enforcement as a profession should be abolished. And there are many reasons for this. And one of the key reasons is the potential for abuse. And it seems that once again I'm proven right in this sense, because here at the Free Thought Project there is an article up: cops sexually abuse women and children at an increasingly alarming rate, and no one is talking about it. No one, that is, except for me and probably Brian. Of course, our solutions are a bit different, which is probably why he would never recommend my channel like he does others, because I don't think that peaceful solutions are even an option, except for one maybe, and that too would end up turning violent at some point. So the notion of a peaceful solution, when you have people with authority abusing that authority. I'm going to go through this article now. I'm trying to mix up, the articles and all that, just so I don't get redundant, I guess. So I have different shit up here. All right. This comes from John Whitehead, one of my favorite authors. So, how could this be happening right under our noses? That's what readers wanted to know after my column went viral about the extent to which young children are being bought and sold for sex in America. Where there are police, or where are the police when these children, some as young as 9 years old, are being raped repeatedly? For that matter, what is the Trump administration doing about the fact that adults purchase children for sex at least 2.5 million times a year? In suburbs, cities, towns across this nation. I'll tell you what the government is doing about it. Little to nothing. No, they would rather bust some poor guy trying to support his family by selling pot, like me. That's what I was doing for the longest time, and then I realized, there's just no winning that. No matter what you do, the end result will be the same. You're gonna get arrested, put in jail. So that avenue was shut off to me. While America's children are being menaced by sexual predators, the Trump administration and its congressional cohorts continue to wage endless wars, run up national debt, and distract the populace with bullshit political theater. And they called it kabuki theater. The police are not much better. In too many instances, the cops are even worse. Indeed, while there are certainly many good cops in this country, I wouldn't say that, and it's really obvious why there's no good cops in this country. And I've had the honor of working with a number of them. And this is John Whitehead saying this, not me, by the way. I would never, ever work with cops. The bad cops have become symptomatic of a criminal justice system that is deeply rotten through and through. We can no longer count on police to save us from the worst in our society. In many cases, they are the worst in our society. In most cases. In many cases, rather than being part of the solution, America's police force is riddled with corruption, brutally sexual misconduct, and drug abuse have largely become part of the problem. And specifically, steroids. I mean, you don't just become a big giant person through lifting weights. It's really obvious when a person is on steroids. Really obvious. I fiddled with the idea of taking steroids myself just to gain my weight back, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. Hundreds of police officers across the country have turned from protectors to predators using the power of their badge to extort sex. And it's not just that. They extort so much more than sex. Back when I lived in Michigan, there was an officer. He's probably still an officer there. Officer Snyder was his name. And Officer Snyder, he liked busting people and giving them the option: you either let me keep what you have without any problem, or you're going to go to jail. And he made a nice, handsome living doing this. And he didn't necessarily keep it to do the drugs. He gave his family members, his dad and brothers and whatnot, a lot of the stuff that he took. So, but in other words, as a recent study by the State Commission on the Status of Women and Arizona State University makes clear, victims are being exploited by the very people who are supposed to protect them, police officers. And this is why the profession of law enforcement should be abolished in totality. Something else needs to be put in place. Something driven by morality and not revenue. But this cannot happen until we push all the blocks over, so to speak. In New York, 7 NYPD cops, 3 sergeants, 2 detectives, and 2 officers were accused of running brothels that sold 15-minute sexual encounters, raking in more than $2 million over the course of 13 months. 2 of the cops' brothers were charged with holding a bachelor party at one of the brothels where they got the place for nothing. Again, if you're a member of their family. And they used the prostitutes. In California, a police sergeant, a 16-year veteran of the police force, was arrested for raping a 16-year-old girl who was being held captive and sold for sex in a home in an upscale neighborhood. A week-long sting in Florida ended with 277 arrests of individuals accused of sex trafficking, including doctors, pharmacists, and police officers. Sex trafficking victims in Hawaii describe cops asking for sexual favors to more coercive situations like, I'll let you go if you do X, Y, or Z for me. Do you see why I have the position I have? One study found that over 14% of sex workers said that they had been threatened with arrest unless they had sex with a police officer. In many states, it's actually legal for police to have sex with prostitutes during the course of sting operations. While the problem of cops engaged in sex trafficking is part of the American police state's seedy underbelly that doesn't get addressed enough, equally alarming is the number of cops who commit sexual crimes against those they encounter as part of their job duties, a largely underreported number given the blue wall of silence that shields police misconduct. Former Seattle Police Chief Norm Stamper describes cases in which cops fondled prisoners, made false traffic stops of attractive women, traded sexual favors for freedom, had sex with teenagers, and raped children. And yet, the masses of people out there will say these men are heroes. I had this encounter with somebody recently. You might recall that I was supposed to get a $100,000 life insurance policy, and I was cheated out of that. It turns out that the person lied to my family and used us as a way to pacify my insane mother. Well, this individual, I went over to collect the things that I was supposed to get, and I told him, about himself for doing that. It wasn't about the money. It was about us being used as pawns. And he started to talk about the police, or calling the police and all this and that. And he was like, well, if somebody comes to your home and kidnap or harms your family, who are the first people you're going to call? I was like, not the police. Well, how are you going to get to the bottom of it then? The same way I got to the bottom of some motherfucker breaking into my house and stealing my weed. That's how. Why would I call people I know are fucking predators to find or to help me? I wouldn't. And these people are straight up predators. Young girls are particularly vulnerable to these predators in blue. Former police officer Phil Stinson estimates that half of the victims of police sex crimes are minors under the age of 18. According to the Washington Post, a national study found that 40% of reported cases of sexual or police sexual misconduct involved teens. One young woman was assaulted during a ride-along with an officer who said in a taped confession, in quotes, "The badge gets you the pussy, and the pussy gets your badge," For example, a Pennsylvania police chief and his friend were arrested for allegedly raping a young girl hundreds of times. orally, vaginally, anally, several times a week over the course of 7 years, starting when she was 4 years old. And we are supposed to keep taking this shit! Where are the parents of this child? Why are those cops not fucking dead? No, I wish I could act, but I can't. This is not an act. I don't understand why people think these individuals are heroes. Okay. In 2017, two new NYPD cops were accused of arresting a teenager, handcuffing her, and driving her to in an unmarked van to a nearby parking lot where they raped her and forced her to perform oral sex on them, and then dropped her off on a nearby street corner. The New York Times reports that a sheriff's deputy in San Antonio was charged with sexually assaulting the 4-year-old daughter of an undocumented guardian or Guatemalan woman, and threatened to have her deported if she reported the abuse. One girl was kidnapped by a Border Patrol agent when she was 14 years old, taken to his apartment and raped. In the apartment, there were 2 beds on top of the other, children's bunk beds, with ropes there too. They were shoelaces for my wrists and feet. My mind was blank, recalls J.E. In quotes, I was trying to understand everything. I didn't know what to do. My feet were tied up. I would look for him, and he had a gun. And that frightened me. I asked why, and he answered that he was doing this because I was the prettiest one of the 3. And there's so many people out there who stand adamantly by this profession. Christians, oh man, they are in love with law enforcement, and it goes against the very, very preachings of Jesus Christ. If you're pro law enforcement, you're really not a Christian. Okay, 2 teenage girls accused a Customs and Border Protection officer for forcing them to strip, fondling them, then trying to get them to stop crying by offering chocolate, potato chips, and a blanket. The government settled the case for $125,000. Mind you, this is the same government that has been separating immigrant children from their parents and locking them up in detention centers where they are easy prey for sexual predators. So far, the government has received more than 4,500 complaints about sexual abuse at those child detention facilities. Now, this is a very long article, and I'm not going to take up all your time. The link will be in the description box along with my other links. But needless to say, don't you think it's about fucking time? In a so-called civilized nation, we put a stop to all of this. Isn't it time? I mean, the longer we wait, the worse it will be. And at some point, it will be too late. It will be too late. We have to put a stop to this. Have to. If you like my content, you can help me by thumbs ups, subscribes, shares, donations, PayPal link in the description box, along with 2 Discord links where 2 good fellows will greet you, Mike and Nomad. At some point, I will be getting back on there. I just haven't been getting on there as my schedule does not permit. So, till next time, kill the state before the state rapes you.